Okay, welcome to episode number 4 of the Shopify Happy Hour. On the Shopify Happy Hour, you'll hear from Shopify founders, operators, and experts on growth marketing strategies, lessons learned from the trenches, and other nuggets of e-commerce wisdom shared over a different drink each episode. Today, I'd like to welcome Aaron Nosbisch, founder of BRÄZ, which creates microdosed cannabis and mushrooms in a can. Aaron, welcome.
Hey, man. I'm super glad to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. And congrats on the launch. This is a really cool concept for a podcast, and I'm glad to be here with you.
Awesome. I am super stoked to have you on and to have a chat, and also to hear about your journey and the product set. So before we kick off all of the cool stuff about hearing how you started it, all the lessons you've learned with bringing this brand to market, why don't you tell me about the product set that we're about to crack open, literally and figuratively?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, so BRÄZ is a microdosed cannabis and mushrooms in a can. We've essentially taken THC from hemp. Hemp is a legal form of cannabis as long as it has below 0.3% THC by weight. We've added that to a drink alongside CBD and some other minor cannabinoids. And also in addition, we have lion's mane mushroom in there. And the combination creates this happy, euphoric, uplifting, and relaxing and relieving experience that's comparable to alcohol, but comes with less consequences that alcohol comes with. So we launched it on 4/20 of 23, pun intended with the 420. And then have been scaling it since. It really took off, man. It's been about 18 months now or so, and it's become the largest cannabis beverage in the world now, which is really exciting. And I love doing it, man. It's like, when you give people a drink like this that allows them a sense of relief, allows them the way to enjoy cannabis in a more subtle, fast-acting, short-lasting capacity. It really gives people an alternative to alcohol that scratches the itch and it fits the bill and gives something you can actually consume while you're with other people in social settings. And people seem to like it quite a bit. We also have this other drink. This is called BRÄZ Flow. Flow has no THC or CBD in it, but it has lion's mane mushrooms, cacao, black seed oil, and L-theanine. And it creates more of like a clear, calm, refreshing, kind of flowy experience. If you've heard of flow state before, it's kind of like that state of effortless momentum where you feel locked in and clear and able to accomplish whatever you're trying to do. So we kind of say it's kind of like our feel-good focus afternoon drink, and that's kind of how I use it. And we just launched that updated formula and launched Flow just a few weeks ago, and people seem to really be digging it. So that's who we are.
Super cool. Well, the timing is great because I enjoy beer, cocktails, wine, but just the day after is not fun, right? So I've been exploring all sorts of non-alcoholic options. And in addition to that, I've also been going down this rabbit hole of all these different nootropics just to try to enhance focus and get locked in. So it's great because the two products that you're referencing seem to accomplish both, right? Just based on the need and use case. So I haven't tried either of these first. So what do you suggest I cracking open first, the normal version or the flow state?
Why don't we start with Flow, and then we can jump over to an infused one. We can do like a infused single, just to kind of dial our heads in first. Yeah, exactly, and then kind of relax on the back end.
Perfect. Cheers, all right, well, cheers to some Flow. Let's get her going.
Yeah, let's get her going. Absolutely. What do you think about the taste?
It tastes really nice. That tastes really nice. So there's definitely some citrus in there, very effervescent. I'm picking up the elderflower for sure, and there's also a little berry as well, I'm getting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm glad you see it. You're on the money. And there's also, so that's kind of like the lemon elderflower taste primarily. So it's kind of like flavor forward. It has a little bit of an herbaceousness to it, but mostly like a sweet lemony kind of flavor. And then we add the lion's mane in there, the cacao, the black seed. I think the lion's mane's pretty neutral. The cacao and the black seed add a little bit of a spice, or almost like there's like an undertone there of like some boldness. And then I think that the effervescentness and plus the lemon, and honestly, there's a lot of water in it too, I think keeps it refreshing and crisp. And so, it kind of doesn't really taste like a seltzer, like I would say like a LaCroix or like, those I find to be really kind of bitter and flat. And it's not really like a soda either, where soda is kind of like syrupy and sugary. BRÄZ kind of like fits somewhere in between there, where it's like it's more flavorful and enjoyable than a seltzer, but it's less of that syrupy ickiness that you might get with a traditional soda.
100% agree with that. So I typically stay away from lots of sugar, definitely any sugary drinks. But this is really nice because it's got just a little bit of sweetness. I am picking up a tiny bit of spice at the end, so those pepper notes. And it's super refreshing. Lots of sparkling beverages can be a little cloying, but this is not. So it's great. And what's also nice is I've been doing a lot of nootropics that are kind of coffee focused or coffee alternatives, which are great in the morning, but sometimes if you just want something refreshing, coffee is, I don't view coffee as a refreshing beverage. But this is super nice. I mean, I would drink this all day in the summertime and wintertime too. It's pretty nice. So excited to feel the effects from it too, because whenever I've had different, and I've tested lots of different nootropic beverages, they're fantastic. Just the focus I can get from it. I'm sure I've got a good amount of ADD in my system. So anything that can help me dial in and stay focused for, 90 minutes and just power through some work, I'm always all about that. So, awesome. So thanks much for going through this. We'll crack open the other version in a few minutes. But while we're sipping on this, why don't you just tell us about how you got here? Why did you start BRÄZ and how did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just touch on one other thing about the drink while we're at is like kind of flow is like a really interesting kind of effect profile to kind of dial in, because it's like you want that like focus and sharpness and that stimulation that you get from maybe like a caffeine or from like a like a more traditional focus or energy drink. So there's a little bit of that in there, not too much though. But you also want that kind of like relief feeling that allows you to like kind of take some of that stress off the day, so that way you can kind of like lean in, and that was kind of like what we were going for with this drink. It's like we wanted it to be. It's really, I think it's not here. This drink specifically is not here to replace your coffee. This isn't really to have like instead of your coffee or instead of your whatever. This is really to be that like that noon, 2 o'clock, whatever drink to kind of help you just dial in, to give a little bit of relief, a little bit of focus. You're having the lion's mane, which is creating a little bit of sharpness and cognitive enhancement. The cacao, a lot of people don't realize that cacao is rich in theobromine, which is kind of like the happy part of chocolate. When people say chocolate makes you happy, that's the happy part of chocolate. So we put that in there to kind of give you a little bit of a mood boost. The black seed oil has like a vitality energy, so you get this kind of like stamina, this like, and that's also some of that pepperiness. And then the L-theanine is the calming part of green tea. I'm sure you're aware. It's like a top nootropic compound used in most nootropic stacks, and so it kind of gives that calming sense. So it's not really like an energy drink. It's more of a feel-good, flowy, focused drink, a clarifying, a calming, a refreshing kind of. Just like keep you moving through the day, kind of drinking. That was the real goal with that. We're actually, between you and me and everyone watching, we're working on a more of an energy drink variation to come out sooner than later. That would be much more of like a punchy, get you going kind of thing, and then. Ultimately, I kind of see like there's this opportunity to kind of craft experiences across the board, similar to what we see in nootropics or the adaptogen or the functional world overall. It's like, the THC drink, the current THC drink, the OG blend, kind of really fits that alcohol alternative solution. This flow one's kind of that midday gap closer, dial you in, help you keep going. I think that there's something to be said about like a morning, get you up and going, or like a much more stimulating drink. I think there's an opportunity around creativity, maybe even. So that's kind of how I see this kind of like broader, and especially for people who use nootropics, like there's just such a wide range of opportunities to kind of like help people dial into the way they want to feel, and to achieve, kind of help facilitate that optimal state for whatever they're working on. And that's kind of a lot of the vision that we have with BRÄZ, is to kind of like help people craft those moments into a can, so that they can tap into that. And that's not to be said that people need that to exist. Like, this is really an additive to life, or and a way to do it in a very natural, clean, like you were saying earlier, is very low sugar. In this can, there's 8 grams of sugars, which is, I think, maybe a fifth of what's in a soda, something like that on average. And that comes from agave, so it's all natural. It's only 35 calories. And so trying to keep that low sugar, low calorie, clean ingredients, American manufactured kind of vibe, to kind of help people craft experiences that can elevate their day, and also a way that's not dependent building or any of that either. Just like a natural nice to have to elevate. But Anyway, I could talk about this stuff forever.
No, I love so nice. That's awesome. Can you so definitely want to go talk through how you got here, but before that, just while we're on the topic of all the different ingredients that are in here, so how do you go about product testing? Because I'm sure like there's so many different things you can put in a can to help people focus. There's so many different combinations. What was product testing like, and what is it like when you're like, all right, I want to create this beverage that will help people focus in the afternoon? Where do you start, and how long does it take to go through that whole testing until you have something where you're like, yeah, this is it. Let's move this to production.
Totally. I first and foremost, a really great team. Like that's where the majority of it comes from. Is I have two really awesome partners. One especially Travis Duncan, who is kind of like our chief formulator at the company. He's responsible for all of our formulations and our variants and all the testing and identifying unique and new ingredients that we can work with. And then we also have Dr. Preston Campbell, who is a PhD in pharmacology from Vanderbilt University, and he's kind of a little bit more of the pharmacologist side of it. So how do all of these different adaptogens, herbs, fungi, nootropics, how do they all work together to craft these kind of experiences? And yeah, I think we kind of start with the intention of the effect that we're trying to create, the experience that we're trying to create. So that's the first step. Second step is kind of like identifying what are both the well-known and not so well-known compounds that help people achieve that. What are some of the known and not so well-known stacks that help people to achieve that? What are the safety profiles and the efficaciousness or efficacy profiles of each of those ingredients? And what is the existing knowledge of how those work together? So we try to figure all that out, and then we kind of put those together into some proposed solution of like, okay, if we did it this way. We also use a lot of like innovative technology on the extraction and processing side of these ingredients to make them a little bit more bioactive. So we go through like a unique extraction process, and then a unique nano emulsification process that makes the particles really small of these ingredients, and then which makes them faster absorbing and shorter lasting sometimes as well. So it's more of a craft experience type of product. For example, the cacao. Like if you've had a cacao ceremony in the past, you take thick chocolatey mud-like consistency of a drink, you put it together and you drink it, and it's a very chalky, chocolatey experience. It's very refreshing, it's very fun, very happy of an experience, but it's a heavy drink to drink. Even if you like chocolate, it's a heavy drink. So to get that that active profile to be in a lemon elderflower, like light soda-esque type vibe, not easy, but possible. And that's kind of like where I think where Travis and Preston and our team like really come to play there is coming up with unique ways to modernize ancient wisdom and ancient compound to create something new. So we do that, and then we test it. We make a lot of variants with slight variations, and then we send it to a small group of us, and then we kind of narrow that down, and then we send it to a larger group of us, and then we do some like safety studies and white papers around the profiles. We even, once we have finished blends, we do EKG studies to kind of see how the interaction on the brain is while you're drinking it, so we can kind of measure some of it in an objective sense. So. And we're at the early stage of this. We're a young startup, kind of figuring this out. But our intentions is to really get honed in there to be to create really efficacious yet safe products that deliver really nice and pleasant experiences for people to help facilitate success in their life. And we say we're on a mission to reduce suffering and maximize potential. So making life better and easier in some capacities and helping people reach their fullest potential. So, we find like our infused OG blend is a great product instead of alcohol to find some relief and satiate that kind of like desire to just relax and calm down and connect with other people. And when you're doing something a little bit more generative, like using our product versus more harmful ones, it facilitates that level of reduced suffering while maximize potential. Where flow might help you dial into your day or find a little bit of relief that helps you finish your day strong, so that helps you again achieve your potential. So we're looking for just unique ways to kind of craft products that help reduce suffering for humanity overall and maximize their potential overall as well, which is quite the grand idea, and it's challenging to make a reality, but we're going to do our best.
That's great. I love the mission. I think anything that your team can do, and just in general through e-commerce products or any products that can help people get more dialed in so they can get more good stuff done will just maximize efficiency and help people be more productive. Ambitious people who want to change the world a bit, if they can have something that will help them get more dialed in or chill out a little bit when they're having a little bit too much stress, I think is fantastic. So I applaud you on the mission. So how do you get started with it? How did BRÄZ come to life?
Totally, man. And to connect there, helping people just like feel better and do better, like that's kind of the goal there. And I think that's kind of like an innate human desire, is that we all want to feel better and do better. And this, like, hopefully we can facilitate that with these products. But so how it started is I used to drink a lot of alcohol back when I was younger, and I joke around and say I went pro and retired early, and realized that I was having a lot of fun with alcohol, but it wasn't really adding a lot of value to my life personally. And that's not to say that to some it doesn't. Just for me, it wasn't really adding a lot of value. But when I stopped drinking, I was kind of left with this hole of like, man, like I miss connecting with my friends. I miss having something to do that like let me find some relief. And I enjoyed smoking cannabis or eating an edible, but when you smoke cannabis, it's kind of like creates an odor. Some people don't really like that odor. It's not always the most socially friendly thing to smoke around people. Smoking at the end of the day, no matter if it's a healthier product like cannabis or a more harmful product like tobacco, like it's burnt plant matter going into your lungs. That's not necessarily a generative thing inherently. And edibles, they're tough because you take them and you wait 30 to 60 minutes and then hits you, and maybe it lasts 4 to 6 hours, and so there was kind of this like missing hole in the space of like, why can't there be a drink that's not harmful or not very harmful? It has, it has generative effects rather than reductive effects to it. Still provided that sense of relief and space and success, and didn't have to be smoking or crossing my fingers and hoping that this ride on my edible is going to be okay, but allowed me to connect with people like alcohol did. And so that's where a lot of, BRÄZ came from, is finding a way to craft a fast acting. So you feel BRÄZ usually within 5 minutes of drinking it, goes away in about an hour and a half at most. And that's a very comparable effect curve as alcohol. And the way we've dialed in with the nasal emulsion and the unique ingredients like the lion's mane and the THC feels kind of like alcohol. You get that happy kind of giddy feeling that typically is associated with the dopamine release of drinking alcohol from the lion's mane, and you get the relaxing effect from the THC comparable to the ethanol in alcohol is a depressant. So you get a comparable experience while being very clear-headed. I think a lot of people have had maybe a bad experience with an edible in the past, or they got really too high one time, and it really, our whole, we joke around at BRÄZ and we say that BRÄZ is the antidote to the bad edible experience. It allows you to kind of tap in to the benefits of cannabis in a very clear and conscious and sessionable, subtle and stackable experience. And so that's kind of where it came from. I think we all found, both with the partners that I have and the broader team and the customers that now drink BRÄZ on the regular, that I wasn't alone in that desire for an alternative and for a better way to consume cannabis. We even, what's kind of funny about BRÄZ is also short for Breathe Easy, BREZ, Breathe Easy, as an alternative to smoking cannabis. So it's kind of an alternative to alcohol and an alternative way to kind of feel the way you want, and an alternative way to consuming cannabis that's a little bit, healthier for you in the process.
Well, all right, you've got me excited to try this.
You're gonna love it, dude.
So if
this is your first one,
if you're good,
infused one?
First one, yeah. And I'm a lightweight with CBD and THC, so
right.
we'll crack it. I got the little guy. I got the little one,
cool.
The smaller version to start out with.
So the THC one comes in what we call a single and a double. So this is 2.5 milligrams. This is 5 milligram. We'll both do the 2.5 one. Now you'll find it's very subtle. It's not an overwhelming experience whatsoever. Like you'll feel it, but it's very chill, comparable to a beer or comparable to a cocktail. So I think you'll really like it. Cheers.
Cheers, good sir.
I'm curious to know the difference in taste. Probably noticed the bite on the back end of this one.
Yeah, so it's good. It is there's a little bit more spice on the back end. It's hitting me more on the roof of my mouth a little bit. It is, I'm still picking up the same flavor profile. It's just a bit more, I'd say, savory and less light.
Totally.
But still quite good.
So this one has a little bit more of like an herbaceous bite, I think, towards the back end. So it's kind of like that flavor forward, sweet forward first taste, and then you get a little bit more of a bite on the back end. And that's primarily coming from the cannabinoids, actually. So the smaller you make the cannabinoids, the more you taste them, and cannabinoids are actually pretty bitter. No matter what form of cannabis you get them in, the smaller you make them, the more they absorb, the bitter they are. So it's a little bit more of a bite. Now, what I like about that is it reminds you it's an adult beverage. Just like if you're drinking a beer or a cocktail, there's a little bit of that bite that's associated to alcohol. And I think that bite, it's kind of a feedback loop of like, hey, this is doing something. This is working. This is creating this experience. And so that's kind of that. I think and you'll see as you continue to drink, it grows on you. And it gets, you might even say, and you probably would find this as well, it's kind of a novel taste. It doesn't really taste like much other things on the market. I think it's comparable maybe to a Sprite, or comparable to maybe a Squirt, like one of these like lemon lime soda type vibes, but it's still a little distinct even from that.
Yeah, I would compare the that sort of aftertaste almost to hops in hoppier beers. And yep. I don't know the exact relationship, but I think the hop plant and the cannabis plant are somehow connected. They're both bitter agents, right? So it makes sense that there's this, to me, it resembles that in flavor
Isn't
profile.
That funny? Even on the alcohol side, beer and especially beer, but beer and cannabis they actually come from the kind of a very the cousins of the same plant essentially. They're very comparable. Hop, and they look like, if you look at a hops plant, the hop nug looks just like a cannabis nug or flower, and so yes, there's this kind of interesting relationship between the two. But yeah, it has a little bit of that kind of like herbaceousness, I would say, a little bit of a bite, a little bitterness. But yeah, I think kind of like, we wanted it to taste like a cocktail. We wanted to have kind of like that little bit of like that experience of like, this is my evening and my adult beverage. And you're probably starting to feel it already. It's pretty quick, very subtle though. Like I told you earlier, it's not like this overwhelming experience. You're just like, cool. So anyway, if you're not, you'll feel it soon. But I'm glad you're going to try it. I think you're going to like it.
Yeah, looking forward to the effects soon. But both of these very well done in terms of the taste. The effervescence is really nice for both of these, and there are slight differences in the flavor profile. But it does seem like the flavor profile of the cannabis and mushroom version or the cannabis and THC version is, I think the adult version of the flow one is a nice way to say it. Just in terms of the flavor profile. So, and the branding is excellent. I love what you've done with your website branding and the branding on the bottle. The fact that it's sort of short and doubles for breathe easy is really nice. Can you talk to me about how you launched and what your marketing strategies were around getting BRÄZ to market? Sounds like that's just about a year and a half ago. So what was that launch plan like? And looking back, what worked and what didn't?
Yeah, man. So it was one of the fastest growing DTC brands ever. It was one of the fastest growing. It is one of the fastest growing DTC brands ever. It's one of the fastest growing beverage brands ever. It's definitely the fastest growing D2C beverage brand ever. And so it's a lot of weird combinations. Now, I think a lot of people see BRÄZ and it's like, where did BRÄZ come from? Like, it just popped out of nowhere. But I've been in the e-commerce world for the last, 15 years or so now. More than that, actually, 17 years now. I started my first e-commerce brand when I was 13 on Big Cartel and MySpace. So a lot of experience with e-commerce. And then I have some really awesome partners too, whether it's Travis and Preston, as I mentioned, but also Nick Shackelford, who is a major direct-to-consumer and e-commerce player, as well as Avent Klein, CEO of Lucid, also a major direct-to-consumer and e-commerce player. So a lot of really smart D2C e-com players on the team. And then a deep knowledge of cannabis and personal affinity. So, the goal when we initially started was like, we're just going to make a super simple website, like a single front page and a single product PDP and a simple checkout flow, and make that really dialed in, not overcomplicated, just very clear, very consistent, and very organized. And then it was, okay, let's do UGC directly from ourselves. So user-generated content directly from ourselves. Like, we don't need to go hire a bunch of people. We don't need to go do a bunch of crazy shit. Like, let's just record ourselves talking on the phone, talking about how cool this product is. What makes us different than a gummy? Kind of the similar kind of conversation that we're having now, and make that into content. What's cool about that is, like, I know this product better than most anyone knows this product because it's, the product that I founded and that our team is building. Same with my team. They know this product better than other people. And so we're able to communicate directly that message as well as make iterations quickly that we can then test. So we made some content like that, had this simple website. And we initially started with meta ads. Now, the trouble with meta ads for a product like ours is most THC, CBD, and products like this are very hard to advertise. There's a lot of restrictions around it due to the changing and evolving legal landscape. But my other company, Lucid, is the leader in advertising cannabis and hemp products. And so we have an agency that's been running cannabis and hemp products for the last 7 years now. And so I have a lot of experience on that front end as well. So we knew kind of the strategies that would work effectively on that front. So we did that. And then I have a little bit of following on my socials, and then Nick has a big following on his socials. And so we kind of connected his following and my following and our team's following and kind of did this hard organic push at the same time. And so that's how we kind of launched initially, is push it through organic, simple assets, simple website, push it through meta ads, set up some email campaigns. We went to Benzinga. Me and Travis went to Benzinga Cannabis, which is a cannabis conference in Miami. And we passed out 200 cans like directly, collected business cards, put those into a Klaviyo email segment. It's shot an email when we launched it and kind of connected the dots between the guys we handed out samples to in the initial email blast. And then we just kept rotating that in to more. It's like, okay, now we're going to keep posting more on social. And now we're going to keep pushing more on ads. Now we're going to make optimizations to these things. And it was just a lot of iteration. But I would say, like, for any brand, it's simpler than you think. Now, a lot of, like the thing about, it's like any complicated thing. It's like once you get through the complication of it, it's actually simple. And so I think BRÄZ is a good example of kind of what it looks like to just kind of narrow it down to what is actually necessary to make it work. Something that I think a lot of people miss about BRÄZ that I think is super important is that the unit economics necessary for a direct-to-consumer brand to succeed in 2024 are very particular. You need to have an average order value above $60, and ideally as close to $120 as possible. Sometimes more if you can make it happen. And the reason for that is like the direct-to-consumer e-commerce game has always, but is especially now, a game of he who can pay the most will win. And now, like, when all things are equal, when everyone has equal access to creativity, or these other aspects of advertising, or AI democratizes the ability to do media buying, it's really going to come down to business model, unit economics, and creativity, and really around both offer and around creative and all your. So my point with that is that what's kind of interesting about BRÄZ is rather expensive. And that's one, due to the ingredients that we put in, which are higher quality to make a better product, but it's two, because that's necessary to make a direct-to-consumer beverage brand work. Beverage is heavy to ship. It's like, it's not something you can just put in the mail and offer free shipping on. It costs on average like $10-11 to ship a package. So you can get pretty expensive. There's a lot of like nuance around creating a business model and a unit economic structure that would facilitate direct-to-consumer growth as we got better and better in it and on it. And so that's kind of how it started and kind of how we built it to be aerodynamic enough to scale quickly.
Awesome. So what are you doing with D2C versus retail?
Great question. So D2C was kind of like what we knew best and how we kind of like know the game. So we used a lot of that direct-to-consumer knowledge to kind of like initially scale up and get us in front of a lot of people quickly. And then we kind of went direct to retailer. There's solutions like BRÄZ, and I forget, there's a few others that essentially allow you to kind of let smaller mom and pop or more boutique retailers find your products and order it online. And as well, people saw our ads and wanted to try our product directly, so they would reach out and submit a wholesale application and buy from us that way. So really initially it was a lot of direct to retail, and even today it's still kind of the same. I'd say probably 50%, maybe more, of our retail sales are people ordering directly from our website or ordering from one of these solutions like BRÄZ or one of these other ones. And so we do that. And then on the other side of that is more of a traditional distribution model, comparable to beer or alcohol primarily, but also kind of like the functional or non-alcoholic drinks that you might find at a Whole Foods or Publix. So we work with distributors, whether that's a Muller's Coors distributor or an Anheuser-Busch distributor or someone like this, and we get into a relationship with those guys where they will distribute our products across all the stores that they serve. They'll buy the product from us and they'll distribute it and sell it to them, and we expand that way. And, what's great about beverage, especially in retail, is that there's existing distribution infrastructure that exists that has been in place for decades, and that a lot of the whole world that we exist in, no matter what state you're in, operates through that infrastructure. So when you're at the restaurant and you want to order a drink, it's there because someone got it there. And so, or whether it's your, whatever it might be, the restaurant or the bar or the grocery store, it all wraps into these distribution networks that exist. So our kind of focus on retail is finding the right distributors who understand our product and that have a lot of reach that we can kind of make creative partnerships with, so that way we can expand our product through retail. I think D2C has allowed us to scale really fast, and I think that we'll have a large and successful D2C business long term. But I do think that ultimately large scale expansion, especially for a category like beverage, it comes from retail distribution. It's like if you look at some of these big beverage companies, whether it's Monster Energy, which is a $60 billion valuation, or Red Bull, these are massive companies, and the majority of their sales come from retail. So our hope is that we can continue to expand and drive market share and awareness of our product through D2C, and then we can drive long-term expansion opportunities through retail and use that D2C arm as a vehicle to drive velocity in retail, while also creating a strong subscription relationship with our direct-to-consumer customers that have on repeat. Also, some interesting things we're doing that you might get a kick out of is now BRÄZ is available on platforms like GoPuff and Delivery Dudes. And so you can order BRÄZ for instant delivery in a lot of different zip codes. We also launched a new platform, a new program with GoPuff called Powered by GoPuff that allows us, if you're in one of 130 zip codes now, you can actually buy BRÄZ directly on our direct-to-consumer website, drinkbreeze.com, and have it delivered to your house within 30 minutes, which is insane. And what's crazy is it's cheaper to do that than it is to buy BRÄZ and ship it to your house from our warehouse, which is really interesting. So like if you happen to be in a place we serve, like Texas or Florida and these areas, then you can just go through our funnel just like normal. And at the end, it's like, oh, do you want it in 30 minutes? And it's $8 to get it in 30 minutes versus $10 to get it in 5 days. So that's kind of a cool. So we're looking for all these like unique opportunities, and like how can we both, be where people usually shop, show them our products, we can introduce them to the category, and then give that instant delivery vehicle as well, so people can have these products when they want it. Because it's like if it's on the weekend and it's a Friday night, and people go to the store and grab a 30-pack of beer or 12-pack of beer or whatever it is. It's like there needs to be kind of an option for this kind of like new age, functional, THC infused alternative way to both get that at your locations that you'd buy normally from, but I think it's really cool if you could just get a 30-minute delivery from a brand's website of that product as well.
30 minutes and $8 sounds like a fantastic deal, especially when you want to have a nice chill Friday or Saturday night.
Totally.
One thing you mentioned was for D2C, you're using that to grow the BRÄZ philosophy. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, it's like this is kind of a new product category. A lot of people aren't aware that there's legal varieties of THC if it comes from hemp. Like that's a big one. And this microdosed cannabis and mushrooms in a can, delivered to your door, comparable to alcohol, fast acting, short lasting. It's a new concept. And so a lot of what we do is like introduce and educate people about like, hey, these products like ours exist now. BRÄZ is excellent. It's the leader in the market. And it's a really great experience. It's going to give you that comparable experience to alcohol in maybe a more generative way. And that's kind of what, it's like, so there's a lot of like education and market awareness activity that happens through D2C, and that even gets paid for by the D2C business model. So it's like we're advertising and making people aware to this, and they're converting. So we're able to keep doing that. And what's cool about that is like, there's a lot of, CPG industry understands this really well, but the alcohol industry doesn't understand it as well, which is that like, direct-to-consumer sales and online advertising is one of the strongest forms of methods of driving velocity in store and retail. But alcohol, because it doesn't have a big D2C business, it's kind of challenging to ship spirits and beers. It's a little easier with wine, but it's still pretty challenging across the board. There's not that much awareness to the fact that direct-to-consumer and online advertising can actually drive a lot of retail velocity. But but we're seeing it work for BRÄZ. So, for example, we just got carried in several stores in Total Wine in Florida, and 10 stores in Total Wine in Texas, which is kind of cool, a new, bigger account. And we sent an email blast last week that was like, hey, BRÄZ is available in these Total Wines in Florida. We sent it to all the people on our customer list who live in those areas. And within 1 week, we sold 20 cases across all those stores. And so there's kind of this like clear connection. It's like all this online marketing and advertising efforts is allowing us to activate our customers who, yes, enjoy to get our product online, sure. But really, they want to get it in store as well. And so when we have those kind of strategic partnerships, whether it's Total Wine or ABC or whoever it might be, we can actually activate our customer base to move a lot of volume in retail. And that's kind of a cool thing. You know, it's like a lot of beverage brands and CPG brands rely on retail partnerships to bring new customers to their brand. And we're doing the opposite. We're actually bringing new customers to the retailer to buy our products, and they often pick up other products at the retailer at the same time. So that's kind of an exciting innovation.
That's super cool. Yeah, I'm very excited for where omnichannel marketing is going to go. Shopify's been making a big play with that, with their POS for brick and mortar retailers, but doing what you're doing, where you've got a D2C brand and you're pushing brick and mortar sales through your distribution channels, I think is super smart. So, you know, growing a D2C brand is hard enough. Growing distribution via your retail channels is pretty difficult. Doing that with a product category that is somewhat regulated, more regulated than others, I'm sure adds a whole nother depth of complexity and difficulty. Can you talk about what that has been like, where you've got to navigate the regulations and any legal issues that would come with this product category? What's that been like?
Absolutely. I love these questions. This is challenging is the short answer. Whether it's marketing and advertising, like on Facebook and Instagram and some of these other channels, like it can get complicated and nuanced on how to run these ads and run them compliantly and run them sustainably. But like on the more macro, you know, in 2018, there was a farm bill passed that said cannabis sativa, so marijuana sativa, cannabis sativa below 0.3% THC was constituted as hemp. And then from there, any hemp product that has below 0.3% THC by weight is legal. You think about beverage and other products, they're kind of heavy. So we can put 2.5 milligrams of THC in here, and it's a very small percentage. Same with these. And so that made products like BRÄZ legal. They're hemp-derived THC products, or cannabis sativa below 0.3%. You know, so that's what made it legal. I don't know if that was the original intention of how those laws were made, but it is how those laws were made. So that's where you saw the CBD boom, and that's where you saw some of this kind of Delta 8 and Delta 9 stuff that kind of transpired from there. You know, some people get confused. They hear Delta 9, they think, oh, that's kind of like fake weed or gas station weed. It's really not. Whether you smoke cannabis or you eat an edible from your dispensary, it's always Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. It's just a question of, was that sourced from a high THC cannabis plant or a low THC cannabis plant? Low THC cannabis sativa is hemp. So now there's been a whole new suite of regulations kind of being put into place, and that I'm working with organizations like the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, the Hemp Beverage Alliance, the Cannabis Beverage Association, CABA. There's a lot of these different organizations where we're pushing to create regulations to ensure that people have safe and clear access to these products. So things like age gating. We have agechecker.net on our website, which uses third-party age verification through public records, similar to a soft credit check, and then requires an ID to be uploaded if it doesn't verify your age from that. So things like that ensure that only adults are having access to these products, but also like clarity on the labels. So ensuring it's, you know, really clear that there's THC in products, putting warnings on these products as well that break that down and make it very, very clear to the customers. You also probably see we have these QR codes on each of the cans. Those scan and bring you to a lab test page where you'll see a third-party full panel lab test for pesticides and for heavy metals, and it shows potency and just shows you that these are clean and safe products. And so we're pushing for regulations that require those things across the board, so that way only the good actors succeed in this category. You know, whenever you're doing anything new like this, there's kind of like it's a new thing. You know, you have to create the laws around it. You have to facilitate that. And so in the process, it's been challenging. You know, there's some states that are fearful, and they'll ban it, or they'll put blocks in it to prevent you from selling it, or they'll make weird restrictions in it. There's other states like Minnesota who will make a full infrastructure of legality that every bar and restaurant you go to now there's THC drinks available at. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and we're doing our best to promote, honest, clear knowledge and educate consumers and fight for fair and safe regulations that allow people access to these safe and effective alternatives like our drinks, while protecting people to ensure that only adults have access to these and kids don't have access to these drinks, and et cetera, things like this. And so it's a little bit of a complicated game. There's also like other players, there's big cannabis companies and monopolies who have kind of monopolized the cannabis industry, which weren't really expecting that there'd be legal forms of THC drinks available at restaurants and bars and things like this now, which is kind of changing the game. And so they kind of want a piece of it, or they don't want it to necessarily run away from them. So there's a little bit of that going on where they'll fight, against it or for it, depending on the state and their stance. And there's big alcohol companies where maybe their sales are going down a little bit, and they want to kind of own this category. So they're trying to push it towards favor of them. So it's kind of a funny little game that's happening right now. Is you have big cannabis MSOs, multi-state operators, monopolies. You have big alcohol monopolies and distributors and whatnot. And then you have this hemp category who's created these new products that are awesome and that people love. But so much so that both of those kind of groups want to put it under their warehouse. So I'm learning a lot about politics. I'm learning a lot about big industries. And, it's big opportunity is the thing. Drinking is very close and dear to humanity. Like, we drink all day, every day. Like, whether it's water, coffee, tea, beer, whatever, people are drinking, and they're doing it often. And when you apply something that can kind of just create a sense of relief for people too, that's a very powerful product. The alcohol industry alone in the U.S. is worth $250 billion, which is just a massive industry. It makes it one of the biggest industries in the world. And then across the globe, I think it's 1.4 trillion or 1.4 trillion now. So it's very, very big industry. And there hasn't been much disruption to it in quite a long time. So these THC beverages like BRÄZ are kind of, first crack at disrupting an age-old business. And I think there's a way to do that in a coexisting, mutually beneficial way. But there's a little bit of evolution required on everyone's part to get there.
Well, Aaron, I got to say, after sipping on this for a little bit, I think this episode is going to change from Shopify Happy Hour to Shopify Chill Hour, because this is has to be nice and super relaxed. It's a very nice, with when you first have a beer or any sort of alcoholic beverage, you get pretty relaxed. You get more, I would say, you get less inhibited. With this, I'm not feeling any sort of disinhibition or anything, but I am pretty chill. So
it's not
the
like
relaxation
either. It's
correct.
Not like I feel
still
high.
super clear-headed.
Yeah.
Right. All right. But I imagine having half of a flow with this is probably maybe counteracting that a little bit too. But feeling very focused, but also pretty chill. So I think this is a super nice stack if you're just say you're stressed and just gotta have a little bit of relief like you're talking about, but still want to stay pretty locked in. These are super nice for that. Okay, so thanks for sharing. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that journey. I don't envy you having to deal with all those regulations, but it sounds like you and the team have done a great job with it. So if you were starting over again, I know you're about 18 months in, but if you were starting over and wanted to do another launch and grow your business, knowing what you do now, if you knew it then, what would you do differently than what you did? And keeping in mind, let's say you had to start over with shoestring budget, just hyper efficient marketing strategies. And this would really be designed for advice for anybody listening who's looking to launch a Shopify business or grow an early stage Shopify business, whether it's in the beverage industry or something else. What would you recommend as the most effective and most efficient marketing strategies to grow an early stage D2C brand?
Great question. I think it's a lot simpler than people think. I think that the most confusing part to starting a new brand in e-commerce is that you get this overwhelming feeling that there's just so much to do, and I got to do this email thing, I got to have this thing over here selling, this after this post-purchase upsell and cross-sell, and there's all this nuance and nonsense, and all that kind of does matter as you build out your brand ultimately. But really going 0 to 1, you can do most all of that with just some solid creative that you can shoot on your phone of you talking about your product, or your friends talking about your product, or family talking about product, or whatever. And a simple website that's optimized for direct-to-consumer conversions. There's a lot of great brands that exist that you can create an MVP, a minimum viable product, keep it simple, stupid, KISS methodology, like simple variation of their D2C site that facilitates information, addresses the value points, addresses the concerns people might have. For example, with BRÄZ, it's like, this is a cannabis and mushrooms in a can, but it's not going to be overwhelming. So people's pushback. Oh, I don't know about THC. It's not going to be overwhelming. It's subtle. It's fast acting. You're going to feel it in 5 minutes. It's going to go away in an hour. It's very clear. It's very conscious. It tastes great. It doesn't taste like grassy, weedy, yucky. It tastes refreshing. It's a light experience that you can stack, comparable to alcohol. You would drink it anytime you drink it. So I'm kind of both positioning and depositioning in that process. And you don't have to get too markety about it. You just kind of think about people and humans. So clear, simple website, clear, simple creatives, just like we're talking about here. And I always recommend, Meta is the ultimate platform right now. Like, it has been for a while. I don't think that that's changed. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I would highly advise people to advertise on Meta right away, get their pixel set up, start running those ads. And dream big, think small. I want to change the world. I would like to see BRÄZ as the leading functional beverage in the world, and I think we're on that path to do that. But every day we do what's the according thing to do today, which is a lot smaller than that grand vision. So I do a lot of that, and yeah, just keep it super simple. Like, don't worry about all these crazy nonsense. Like, run simple Advantage Shopping Plus campaigns and Meta that are AI optimized. Just launch the creative, let it do the work. Don't worry about the targeting. Just do broad targeting, US, whatever your age, 18 plus. For us, it's 21 plus, but for you, it might be 18. Set those things up and just let it do its thing. Try to keep it super simple. Post on social media while you're doing it. Tell people what you're up to. Share the story. It's interesting and it's exciting. And, we share a lot of what we do on social, and that's both a promotion of the brand, our personal brands, but it's also an opportunity to involve the community in the story of building our brand and kind of see the things that we don't see that might help grow it faster. Things like this, it's like, I think people overcomplicate this stuff way too much. And that's probably due to the tech side of it, but utilize the tech to make a simpler experience for your consumers. And, get a lot of feedback. Look at your reviews. What are people saying about it? What are people saying about when they introduce the product? Address those pain points so that way you can remove the friction of conversion and retention. Also, start with subscription always. Find a way to integrate subscription to your business. Be mindful of your unit economics. Make sure that you have a high enough AOV. Optimize for a long lifetime value through both a great product, through subscription, things like this. So it's narrowing down on those things that really matter and optimizing those and leaning in.
I love it. Simplicity plus strong business metrics. Those are going to be a powerful combination. So shifting gears a little bit, tell me about your favorite shopping experience, online or offline.
Great question. I love going to an Apple store, both online and offline. I think that it's exciting. It's I want to I think that the experience of people's products starts with the first ad, with the website, with all of it. It's I want to have an exciting experience from the moment I enter the brand's universe. And so when it's an Apple store, you walk into this white portal of lights and chrome and natural woods and premier products, and it feels so sophisticated and interesting and exciting and magical, I would say, and similar to their website. So I really like that. I really like also kind of just any form of experiential design in retail and in store. So and in branding with packages is I optimize for novelty, and I think that other people should as well. You often hear about surprise and delight. Surprise and delight. If try to look for opportunities to surprise and delight your customers, so it creates a higher affinity towards yourself or the brand, or and it's just a nice loving thing to do towards people. And so we're always looking for novel ways to communicate the brand. This packaging is kind of different. It's it's familiar enough, but it's also kind of fun and exciting and unique and different. And the effect profile is unique and different. It creates that unique experience. And so I'm always looking for creating that sensation of novelty, which I think people really appreciate, especially in our modern age where there's so much out there. There's so much of the same. It's when you can kind of craft something net new that's a valuable thing to do in humanity alone. And then you can follow that up with a really great product experience.
Fantastic. I love the Apple Store reference. We'll often reference that with clients when we're doing web design. And, one of the worst things for conversion rate is having a cluttered website. And we'll say, okay, so if you walk into an Apple Store, or if you walk into a dollar store, what's the difference, right? And Apple Store is a highly curated collection experience. There's a consolidated product set, lots of white space, easy to walk around, easy to look from far away and find what you're searching for. Versus a dollar store where things are just jammed in bins, disorganized, there's clutter everywhere. And from a web experience standpoint, it can crush conversion rates if your website is super cluttered. So the Apple Store is definitely a great example for a favorite shopping experience. So that is a good one to have. Okay, so what is one thing in life that you do better than most people just naturally, and how do you do it?
Geez, I think I connect with people pretty well. Like I can kind of like, I just kind of like, I think I understand myself pretty well for the most part, and I think I understand other people pretty well because I understand myself. Not so much that like we're all the same, but there's parts of us that are all the same. That there's similar desires and fears. There's similar, pieces of humanity that are consistent, and so. I think it's because my dad, he was really good at sales. He was also an ATF agent, so alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. So he was a federal agent. He did a lot of like interrogations and people and kind of like just knowing people. And so I think I learned at a young age how to connect with people, how to sell things, and I think through a lot of like personal expansion and work, I kind of learned about myself a lot better. And I think in that process, I'm able to use those two things kind of in a very intuitive way to understand how like a new product might fit in the market and how people might relate and what they're kind of looking for and how to connect those dots. And so a lot of that is kind of like very natural to me. And I think that gives us a competitive advantage. I think that's available to everyone. I just think it's some of people have a little bit more of an affinity towards it, but I think that's what gives me, I think I might do that better than other people do it at times. And I think that's what allows us to kind of, we also play to our strengths, like Beverage is a retail game and we're doing it in direct to consumer. That's like, why? It's like, cause we're good at direct to consumer, it's like, that's kind of, so we're applying that. And I think that works with everyone. And like, this is a great question because it's like, the question is like, what is that to whoever you are and whatever you're doing? It's like, if you can be mindful of that and not just try to play other people's games, but play your game, whatever you're trying to do it in a way that leans on your skill sets and your talents. Like you can get much stronger returns doing that than trying to play someone else's game who is very like, there's a lot of really strong retail players out there. And like Brez is getting stronger and stronger in retail now. And we're going to be becoming a real powerhouse in that department. But it came from playing to our strengths initially, so we could get to that point. And that's what I often recommend to people is identify like where is that unique opportunity for you, whether it's events or D2C or retail or creativity or branding or social media or whatever, and do that. But yeah, for me, I think it's a lot of marketing and direct to consumer sales experience, some branding experience, like creativity and design around that, and a lot of just intuitiveness that allows me to understand myself and the world around me and how a new product might fit into the space like this.
Fantastic. All right, we just have a couple minutes left, so let's move to the speed round. So each answer should be about 30 seconds or less, so kind of first thing that comes to mind. So what is one of your most recommended books?
0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Like amazing book. Just like I going 0 to 1 is a very important concept, and being able to do that for new categories can create some of the biggest opportunities on the planet. So I love that book.
What's an under the radar product or brand you've used and like, but most people don't know about?
That's a good question. Okay, I'm going to show you one. This is Own Protein. Really cool product. You might be aware of them, but it's kind of a non-dairy, all-natural protein. They say only what you need. That's what Own comes from, but I love this product. It's like a very natural protein, very clean. That's a great one. This one people are super aware of, but I'm an AirPod aholic. I use these things constantly for everything. I love them. I even just like walk around and turn them on so that way it's a little quieter so I can think more clearly. And Okay, I got a really good one. I use an ice bath and a sauna every day, like religiously, and a lot of people know about that as well. But it's like finding those little things that can help you kind of like feel better and be better. Like that's what allows me to do my best work. And so hitting the ice bath and hitting the sauna in the morning or in the evening kind of like really set me up for success.
Any favorite brand for the ice bath or sauna? Are you doing those at home?
I use Brass Monkey for mine, which is a European brand. I love it, except it's been very challenging with U.S. electricity, and so it's kind of like it's broken a few times. Another one's Blue Cube is a really popular one for the ice bath. For the sauna, I have an Almost Heaven sauna, although my favorite sauna are Nomad saunas. They're a lot more expensive, but they're incredible saunas. I have a friend that runs that company, and they're pricey, but they're awesome. They're usually the barrel saunas too, so like the kind of circular cylinder, longer ones like that. So kind of cool.
Nice. Name one tip you use to stay motivated.
I use to stay motivated. For me, often like stress is the inhibitor of motivation for me. Like if I get like too overwhelmed with whatever I'm doing. So I do a lot of Wim Hof breathing. So just like some power breathing and I hold my breath for a while, and you can find a Wim Hof method. And I trained with him in Poland and in Spain a couple of times, and I learned a lot. And I find just like being able to activate, like when I get done with this call, I'm going to go do a breathing exercise before my next call. And like that just kind of like helps me reset and recenter, and that helps me stay motivated and clear. I also I do a lot of prioritization, like what's important today, what's important now. And I kind of like trying to narrow down on that. Like the ultimate tip for motivation and like productivity is like get some sleep, like 8 hours of sleep, like prioritize it and make it, fit it in, like go to the gym, it's like all that shit. Like people, they talk about a lot, and everyone's like, oh yeah, but what nootropic am I going to get that's actually going to help me? And it's like, you can do those things and they will help you, but nothing is really going to compete with the idea of just getting good sleep and getting a good workout and getting the body moving. They say movement is magic, and so I'm a big believer in that. And I don't always implement it as well as I'd like to, but I work to do it better and better every day.
Nice. So before we wrap up, I got to hear about the Wim Hof experience. What was that like training with him?
Crazy, dude. He's nuts. He's totally nuts. In all the right ways, but he's totally nuts. But I trained with him, and so Wim Hof, for those who don't know, he's like a big ice bather, breathing exercise guy. He's kind of one of the big guys that kind of introduced the whole ice bathing and cold water therapy movement into the Western society. And so I trained with him in Spain first during the summer, and I trained with him in Poland for a week. And I mean, it was wild, man. We'd do 10 minutes in the ice. We ended with 15 minutes in the ice, and it's like frozen rivers in Poland where the water's flowing by us. There's a group of 10 of us in the water. And what's wild is you tap into these very deep parts of yourself. Like at some level, you're the one telling yourself that you're cold. So it's like if you can kind of like consciously tap into that subconscious, they call it the interoceptive system. So that part of you that's reacting and feeling, and kind of like be mindful of it. And you can kind of learn a lot about yourself. And one of my favorite quotes that I learned from there is like, if you go to the discomfort when there is none, when there is discomfort, there will be none. And that was really powerful to me. And it's like when you learn to do these ice bathing and these kind of techniques that are challenging, but like rewarding, you kind of prepare yourself so that way when you do experience challenging things in the future, rather than reacting like, oh, this is too hard and I don't want to do this, like you have that clear and conscious ability to say, yeah, maybe I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, and it's going to be a good outcome in the end. And you strengthen that muscle just like you do when you go to the gym. When you strengthen that muscle of discipline through activities like ice water therapy or contrast therapy, you can get a very strong mentality and willpower that will allow you to do more than most do.
If anybody hasn't heard of Wim Hof or wants to learn more, there's a really good book, What Doesn't Kill Us by Scott Carney, and it focuses a lot on Wim Hof, and there's some really cool stories in there. Yeah, during the pandemic, my wife and I were doing a lot of Wim Hof breathing through the app, and we still kind of laugh because he's got such a cool accent. And while you're doing your breath hold, you're like 2 minutes in, he's like, "You're doing fantastic." We're like, yes. Thank you, Wim. Thank you.
It's awesome. Dude, and he's just like that in person, and it's even more intense in person. We'll have to do it. He does them every once in a while. It's like he does a couple in the winter and a couple in the summer. So maybe we can sign up and do one together.
Nice. That'd be amazing. I would love that. Fantastic. Awesome. So, Aaron, where can people connect with you to learn more?
Absolutely. You can find me on social. It should be somewhere over here at Aaron J. Nosbisch. And then you can also check out BRÄZ out at Drink BRÄZ or drinkbrez.com. BRÄZ is BREZ, drinkbrez.com. And yeah, I'm getting a lot of messages these days, but I try my best to like help everyone. You know, we're kind of building in the public, just sharing what's happening in real time and being open as transparent as we can about it. I know what it's like to be a direct-to-consumer operator and try to build a company and figure this stuff out. And so we're trying to be as clear and open and honest and helpful as possible. So thanks for having me on the show, Dan. It's been a lot of fun. I look forward. We should do another one maybe a year out and kind of see how things have changed.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I would love to hear more about your journey along the way. So yeah, been super fun. Thank you very much for the beverages and for cracking these together. That's been great. And thank you much for bringing BRÄZ to market. And with your mission with that, you know, some D2C founders, they're just like, we want to sell more stuff, but you've got a really cool mission to help a lot of people. And also for sharing your expertise and insights with our audience and for joining us on the Shopify Chill Hour for this episode. Thanks much, Aaron.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. See you guys.